She was once one of the most celebrated artists of the Harlem Renaissance. So, how did Augusta Savage, the sculptor who defied racism and shaped a generation, vanish from America's memory?
This is African American History is American History. Augusta Savage was more than just a sculptor. She was a teacher, an activist, and a visionary, shaping not only clay, but the future of American art and education. Born Augusta Christine Fells in 1892 in Green Cove Springs, Florida, she came into the world on a leap day, and as she once said,
"I was a leap year baby, and it seems to me that I have leapt my whole life."
From the red clay of her childhood neighborhood to the white walls of the world's galleries, Savage's life was marked by leaps of faith, courage, and imagination. This is African American History is American History. Augusta began sculpting as a child, modeling small animals from that red clay. But her father, Edward Fells, a strict Methodist minister, didn't see this as innocent creativity.
My father kicked me 4 or 5 times a week and almost whipped all the art out of me because he believed my sculptures to be sinful practice due to his interpretation of the graven images portion of the Bible.
Still, she persisted. At 15, she married John Moore. By 16, she was a mother, and 3 years later, a widow. When her family moved to West Palm Beach in 1915, a high school principal noticed her talent and gave her a chance to teach clay modeling. It was a pivotal moment. Art wasn't just her escape. It became her responsibility. Augusta remarried, this time to a man named James Savage, a name she kept even after their divorce. It would become the name history remembers. By 1919, she won a prize at the Palm Beach County Fair for her original clay works. Encouraged, she set her sights northward on New York City. In 1921, with just $4.60 and a letter of recommendation, she arrived in New York City. Turned away from one school due to cost, she was instead accepted into Cooper Union on full scholarship. She ranked ahead of 142 men on the waiting list. She excelled, completing the 4-year program in just 3. But as her career gained momentum, tragedy struck again. Her third husband, Robert Lincoln Poston, a leading figure in Marcus Garvey's movement, died of pneumonia in 1924 on a voyage returning from Liberia. Savage supported her family by working in Manhattan steam laundries. Yet, even under pressure, her art began to gain attention. Her first commission was a bust of W.E.B. Du Bois. More followed, including works of Marcus Garvey and NAACP leader William Pickens, Sr. But acclaim did not shield her from racism. In 1923, she was accepted into the prestigious summer program at the Fontainebleau School of Fine Arts in France, then denied when the committee learned she was black. She protested publicly.
This is African American History is American History.
The press covered her story on both sides of the Atlantic. And while the decision wasn't reversed, Augusta Savage gained a powerful mentor, sculptor Herman Atkins McNeil, who had once shared a studio with African-American painter Henry Ossawa Tanner. Beginning in the early 1920s, Augusta became the target of unwanted attention from a man who called himself Professor Seagull. His real name was Joe Gould, an eccentric writer and drifter from Boston, who became dangerously obsessed with Augusta.
He wrote me endless letters, telephoned me constantly, and said over and over how he wanted to marry me. Eventually, his harassment turned violent.
For over 2 decades, Gould stalked her. Friends believe his obsession may have turned to sexual violence. Although Savage never publicly reported it, the trauma lingered.
I was terrified of him. But as a black woman, I was unable to get any help from the police.
Gould was repeatedly arrested for assaulting women. He was in and out of psychiatric hospitals, eventually diagnosed as psychopathic. But Savage, like always, endured. And she continued to create. In 1929, with financial help from the Urban League, the Rosenwald and Carnegie Foundations, and supportive friends, Savage finally got to Paris. She enrolled at the Académie de la Grande Chimère and worked under sculptor Félix Benito de Gois. But even in Paris, artistic freedoms had limits.
The masters are not in symphony. They all have their own definite ideas, and usually wish their pupils to follow their particular method. I will therefore begin working primarily on my own.
She studied. She exhibited. She won awards. She toured Europe's cathedrals and museums. But when she returned to America in 1931, the Great Depression had crippled the art market. Still, she pressed on.
This is African American History is American History.
In 1934, Augusta Savage became the first African American artist elected to the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors. With a Carnegie Foundation grant, she opened the Savage Studio of Arts and Crafts in Harlem. It was more than a studio. It was a sanctuary. Her students included future art luminaries like Jacob Lawrence, Norman Lewis, Gwendolyn Knight, and even Kenneth B. Clark, the psychologist whose research would help end school segregation in Brown v. Board of Education. By 1937, Savage was leading the Harlem Community Arts Center. Over 1,500 people passed through its doors. Students of all ages, learning from a multiracial, multicultural staff. But working with the Works Progress Administration, or WPA, came with new challenges. Some officials opposed her leadership. Discrimination, again, was never far away. In 1939, Augusta Savage reached a historic milestone. She was commissioned to create a work for the New York World's Fair. Her sculpture was called Lift Every Voice and Sing, inspired by the song by James Weldon and Rosamond Johnson, often referred to as the Black National Anthem, but many knew the sculpture simply as the harp. 12 black youth formed the strings. A great hand became the harp's frame. In front, a boy knelt, offering music. It was among the most beloved and photographed works at the fair. But it was made of plaster. She lacked the funds to cast it in bronze or to move and store it. So, when the fair ended, like so many other temporary installations, the sculpture was destroyed. The 1940s brought more hardship. Savage opened 2 galleries, both closed with little financial success. By 1945, exhausted and depressed, she moved to Saugerties, New York, a small town in the Catskills. The KB Products Corporation, the world's largest growers of mushrooms at the time, employed Savage as a laboratory assistant in the company's cancer research facility. She bought a car and learned to drive to enable her commute. She also raised chickens, taught art at summer camps, sculpted friends and tourists, and wrote stories for children. Neighbors remembered her always working with her hands. For 2 decades, Augusta Savage lived in near obscurity, sculpting and never stopped teaching. But she rarely showed her work. In 1960, battling cancer, she moved in with her daughter in New York City. It was there that she died on March 26, 1962. She lived a life of quiet revolution. Her art defied stereotypes. Her voice challenged gatekeepers. Her classroom birthed generations of creators. Though most of her sculptures were lost, her influence remains. Her former home in the Catskills is now on the National Register of Historic Places. A high school in Baltimore bears her name. In her hometown of Green Cove Springs, Florida, the Augusta Savage Cultural Arts Center stands as a tribute. Children are learning again because of her. Augusta Savage is finally being remembered, and she serves as an inspiration, not just to the many that she taught, helped, and encouraged, but to the generations to come. Her story, much like that red clay of Florida, was shaped under pressure, and through that pressure emerged a beautiful new vision of what Black creativity could be.
I have created nothing really beautiful, really lasting. But if I can inspire one of these youngsters to develop the talent I know they possess, then my monument will be in their work.
This has been African American History is American History. The episode you've been listening to, Augusta Savage, The Forgotten Sculptor, Remembered, was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley. The voice actor for this episode was Soraya Butler as Augusta Savage. I'm Harlan Kearsley. And on behalf of everyone involved with African American history is American history, thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American history is American history. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2025.